This is News Desk and welcome to the program. Let's start off from the Ashanti region and get you some fresh developments from the Kumasi Central prisons, where fire that ravaged one of the rooms in the prisons led to the inmates engaging in some sort of violence there. Now, the inmates were Thursday moved from the Kumasi Central prisons after the Wednesday fire scare and attempted jail break. Now, we understand one inmate was killed, but there are some fresh developments now. We'll talk to Multimedia's Ohim Interior, who's joined me over the telephone with some detail. Hello, Ohim.
Hello, Kevin.
Good morning and thanks for joining us here. What are these fresh developments you speak about?
Come again, Germany.
I'm asking what the fresh developments are.
Oh, yes. Yesterday there was a crisis meeting, and this crisis meeting was attended by officials of national security and then Director General of the Prisons Service, Mrs. Matilda Bafo Awura, and other substance of the Ghana Civil Service. After press time yesterday, before I left the prison, they were still in the meeting, and there was no word as to whether or what will be happening or what they will be discussing. But I tried to nose my nose around. I tried to nose around, and what I believe they will be discussing was the level of destruction caused by the prisoners or the inmates uprising. Before the meeting, the Director General said that he has seen the destruction caused by the inmates, and it includes the destruction to the infirmary that takes care of the prisoners when they are sick. Everything probably has been destroyed. And she also mentioned the school set up to formally train the inmates. They also destroyed that one. Tailoring workshop was also destroyed, like a computer laboratory. So she appealed to benevolent organizations and individuals who help set up these places, these establishments to come to their aid and establish them again. But she also mentioned that they will investigate the issue, and after the investigations, if any prison officer or warden is found culpable, that person will be dealt with according to the rules of the country. And she also mentioned that the same thing applies to the inmates. If any of them is found to have erred, definitely the law will take the due course. But after that, I also learned that some family members who were expected to see the discharge of their relatives from prison, some of them were fined. They were fined by the court, and in default, the court asked them to pay to go into prison or serve a prison term. But some after paying the fine, say 2 days or 3 days before the skirmishes happened, they were expected to see their relatives. But they were at the prison's offices yesterday, only to be told that documents or files covering their relatives cannot be traced. And it appears that they may have to wait because their relatives may have to spend more time in the prisons than expected.
Have prison officials
all over the face of the family members who from the prisons yesterday to see the release of their family members?
Obviously. Now, have prison officials been able to say how long it will take them to recover those documents?
For them, they will need some time. When I spoke to the Ashanti Regional PRO, ASP James Saman, on this particular issue, he said that luckily for them, they have been able to retrieve parts of the documents or parts of the particulars of the business. He said there was a backup, and the backup is a digital backup, which means that all the hard copies, the copies that they had in the offices have been destroyed. So they will just hope that with the backup that they have now, they will be able to deal with some of the inmates. But beyond what they have in the prisons, they can also rely or trust the court to give them some documents, some details of the inmates who are currently at the Kumasi Central Prison. So that is the situation as we speak now. But it was so frustrating to see family members who were at the prison to see the release of their relatives, so that they have to wait a little longer.
But visiting the prisons today, what is the atmosphere after the distraction, after the transfer?
Hello?
I'm asking to help us understand what it looks like in the prisons today after the distraction and the transfer of some prisons to other prisons across some prisoners to other prisons across the country.
Yes, at the prisons, I can say the atmosphere is quite different from the normal day where you go, you see people coming in with food, or things that will be given to their relatives. It's quite different. What you see is mostly the entrance to the Kumasi Central Prison taken over by official security details. We are prison officials. Some are armed, and then a few police officers around. So it's not like the earlier days when you come and you see people queuing up just to have the opportunity, waiting for their turn to be allowed entry into the prison. For now, they have put all bases. They say that is how they put all activities in the prisons on hold until further notice. So that is what is happening at the moment.
Very well. Thank you very much for that information, Ohime. Ohime Interior joined us from Kumasi, where he visited the central prisons, been giving us updates on it. James Annan is PRO for the Ashanti Regional Prisons Service, and he's joined me over the telephone. Hello, James. Thanks for joining us here on the program. Well, I understand we have lost James there. Hello, James. Good morning, James.
Good morning.
We have just been informed of the fact that the Kumasi Central Prisons has no use of the infirmary, some workshops, a computer lab, which all used to be operational prior to the fire and the attempted jailbreak. How do you run the prisons now without these things?
Can you say that again? You are not sounding quite clear.
How do we intend to run the prison now after you have lost use of your infirmary, some of your workshops and the computer lab?
All right. Thank you very much. And I wish to take this opportunity to greet your listeners as well. Following the incident on the eve of Wednesday, we had some few challenges because the inmates destroyed some of the properties in the prison facility. As I speak to you now, we lost some documents on the inmates themselves, and then we were able to retrieve some backup from a different office. So we still have their data in good shape, and we'll be able to use that to operate in the days ahead. And then concerning the infirmary, we are going to quickly fix the place, and then we are managing the place, and inmates who are sick are being treated. So in no time, the whole place will be fixed, and we'll continue operations as normal. As I speak to you now, the camp has been restored at Kumasi Central Prison, and then we are trying to put things into normalcy. So I think with time, we'll get over this tragedy and we'll move on as the service.
How long are you expecting to put the prison back in shape?
Well, as part of the measures, yesterday we transferred about 248 prisoners to other prisons so that it will ease the number of inmates there and avoid any possible rout by the prisoners. And as I speak to you now, we are on the ground fixing and putting the pieces together. So as soon as possible, everything will be okay, and then we'll move along. And then I'm sure the offices that were broken down or that were destroyed will be fixed so that officers can go back and continue their day-to-day operations.
Again, I'm going to ask the question, how long will it take for the prisons to be able to get its infirmary working, to be able to get his workshop up and doing, to be able to get his computer lab well enough to be able to take on the prisoners as students. How long should we expect a smooth running of the place?
Well, I don't mean we are running as a prison. The prison hasn't been closed down, if I should put it that way. But we have to put the pieces together. We have to sort out the damaged, the damaged items or equipment together, and then see if we can make use of some of the damages. Sometimes it may not be a complete damage. Maybe we can, let's say a computer, for instance, we can take the hard drive and use it. So we are doing that. As soon as we are done, we will then fix the whole situation so that all the officers will be brought back to normal. So I wouldn't be able to give you a specific time because as I speak to you, our officers are in the yard and they are working assiduously to put things together. For me to give you a time frame, that I will not be able to do.
How easy would it be to run the prisons without your usual infirmary, the workshops and the like?
Well, it's going to be quite challenging, but we will manage because we have our medical staff in the prison. We can still function with the list that we are left with. And then cases that are so serious will be referred to the Confederation Teaching Hospital for medical treatment. But in the meantime, we are managing with the list that we are left with. And then as soon as we fix it, we fix the situation, we will then begin to operate as usual. So I would say that the infirmary hasn't collapsed, but we are managing because the damage was a bit serious. So with the list that we are left with, we can do something. And then once we are able to fix or buy the necessary equipment, we will then go back to our normal way of operating.
How much do you think the prison service may have lost as a result of this fire and attempted jailbreak?
As a matter of fact, we are still counting our losses. Let me put it that way. We are still counting because as I said, we have to sort the things that were destroyed. We have to sort them out first, and then know whether we can use some of them, and then those that we cannot use, we can separate them from the ones that can be used. Then we can now be able to calculate and tell how much we've lost because some of the properties of inmates were even stolen. We have a place where we keep inmate property on admission. If you come in with, let's say, a cell phone, a wristwatch, or any valuable item like wedding rings or whatever, we have a space where we keep all these property, including cash. We keep them for the inmates. When they are going out of the prison, we give their property back to them. Some of these items were also stolen. So we have
How much cash was stolen?
Say that again.
How much cash was stolen?
For now, I wouldn't be able to disclose the amount because the figure hasn't come out yet unless I speak to the reception officer. But
in terms of stolen items, did the prison service also lose anything?
That is why I said we are still counting the losses so that we can put them together and then we can give you a specific figure. I don't want to be specific when the actual amount hasn't been determined by the officers who are putting things together.
Very well. Now, for a prison service that is hardly able to feed its inmates because the subvention it receives is very little. How do you? This is the question. How do you think you can afford to put back your workshop, your computer lab, and your infirmary back into shape? How do you think you're going to put the prison back into shape?
Well, as part of our mandate, Ghana Prison Service, we have to ensure safe custody and then the welfare and then rehabilitation and reformation of inmates whenever practicable. So at the moment, we are able to ensure safe custody. That is the primary or the fundamental objective of the prison service. Once the inmates are there and they are safe, they cannot escape or they cannot be threat to us. We think that we can function with what we have. But as I said...
Very well. Now let's talk about those missing records, ASP.
Okay.
How long would it take for us to get into the digital system and be able to free those prisoners who are supposed to be walking free men?
Okay. Yes, the damage that was caused affected both digitalized information and then hard copy. Documents that were printed out. So we found it difficult to get our information on our data on inmates back. But fortunately for us, we were able to retrieve a backup which was in a different office where the inmates were unable to attack. So as I speak to you now, we have been able to retrieve some of our backups in a digital format where we can use that one to manage the prison in the meantime until we are able to create new hard copies for record purposes.
So what happens to those people? They're going to stay there until you are able to, because you are not able to tell us how long the DG system will be able to cough up those records of those persons who are supposed to be free men.
I didn't get that question.
I'm saying it means that they are going to be there for as long as the prison service deems necessary, because you haven't been able to tell us how long it will take for the DG system or the digital records to cough up their records so they can go as free men.
I don't understand your question well, but you know, we transfer some of the inmates to different places, and we still have some there. The objective is not to send all the prisoners away, but we just wanted to.
ASP.
Hello.
Let's focus on those persons who are supposed to have been freed, but because
your line keeps cutting, so at a point in time, I missed certain words. That is why I'm unable to understand your question. Okay,
let's give it another try. I'm talking about those prisoners who have been freed, and due to the fire.
You mean freed? Did you say freed?
Yes.
Okay.
And because of the fire, you are unable to get the records to be able to process their documents for them to walk out of the prisons. My question is, how long would it take for you to get your backup to be able to cough up their records for them to work as free men? Because then they have been ruled to go home.
Okay, I now get your question. As I speak to you, yesterday I was at the secretariat and I saw them putting the backup together, so that those who are in charge of the admission and the discharge of inmates will quickly start working on that. So it is something that we are really working on assiduously to ensure that those who have been discharged are allowed to go home as soon as possible. But it doesn't mean we don't have the record of those who are going on discharge or those who have been discharged. But what happens is that before a prisoner is released from prison, we have a board known as the discharge board, where inmates are subjected to that board for the board to advise them, encourage them, and educate them about so many things before they are reintegrated into society.
But my point is, you still need the records. You need the documents to be able to move through that stage. And so if they know how long it would take, it would help them. Are you able to tell us how long you cough up those records or not?
For the time, I wouldn't be able to give any time, because the officers are working on it as I speak to you now.
Very well.
They are putting all the pieces together. As soon as they are done, they will ensure that those prisoners are released immediately, because it is an unfortunate situation that has brought us into all this.
Very well, we'll leave it here. Thank you very much for your time. ASP James Zana and his PRO for the Ashanti region, the Kumasi Central Prisons, the Ashanti Regional Prison Service. Now, when we come back, we'll talk about security and safety of the Ghana Black Star players in Equatorial Guinea. Also talk of that of the supporters or the fans who had gone there to watch them as well. Then I was telling you that if you have a signage in town, in front of your shop, anywhere in town, you might have to start paying for it, because for the AMA, it's some form of advertisement. I'm sure you want to know about that, how much you'll be paying. So don't go away. I'll be right back.